Scott Turnbull, McLennan Chisholm's Doctor of Finance, is here with me to straight talk some issues related to the city finances, the master fee schedule, and other things. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen. This is the Bunker Bob Show. Well, it is great to be with you on a Thursday morning, and obviously we're getting more rain. Let's not be too disappointed with more rain because we go through so much drought. Let's be thankful for what we have, and also thankful today that I have a special guest with me. He is a man that I don't think has ever forgiven me for recruiting him to come on city council. And he ended up not just being a member of city council, but also the Mayor Pro Tem. And that, of course, is Mr. Scott Turnbull. Scott, it is great to have you on the Bunker Bob Show today.
Good morning, Bob.
Well, I appreciate you being here, and specifically, I wanted to bring you on to talk specifically about the change that occurred in the state legislature, required cities to, or said that cities could no longer charge certain fees in certain ways. And for the city of McLennan Chisholm, building fees with developers and home builders has been a significant source of revenue for the city. Scott, can you kind of give those watching a sense of just what percent and how big of a deal is the city fees to the revenue of the city?
It's about 1/3 of the revenue. Between 1/4 and 1/3.
So that's an incredibly significant portion. Yes. And so this one of the things that I had argued and was concerned about when I heard that this piece of legislation passed is that the way it was done originally. And correct me if I'm wrong, but originally a city could charge fees based upon the value of the home.
That's the way most were doing now, according to Representative Holland. That has been against the state constitution forever. So they changed it, but they really didn't change it. And the reason I say that is because they said you couldn't do it based on evaluation.
Like what the Rockwell CAD does.
Right. So this is how it used to work. Builder would come into City Hall and say, I'm building a new house. It's going to be $650,000. And then he tells them it's a 10,000 square foot home. And the builder or the building inspector goes, wait a second, that's not going to work. You're lowballing the price of your house. So there was a base per square foot rate that's a national standard that they use. So when they said it was a 10,000 square foot house, they multiplied it by 1.13, and that's where they came up with the valuation. So builders couldn't come in and lowball it. And I'll give you an example. There's 3 houses that have started, permits were drawn on since January 1. One of them was $650,000 with a square footage of 5762. Under our old system, that builder paid $69.87 for his permit.
$69.87?
$6,987.
All right.
Now there's another builder who came in and said his house was worth $634,000, but only had 4,088 square feet. So he paid $6,800. Now there's 1,700 square foot difference between those two houses, but they paid less than $100, less than $100, $150 difference in permit fee. And then here's the one that'll get you. One guy was actually honest. He came in and said his 4,300 square foot home was going to be $735,000, and he paid $8,000 in permitting fees.
Wow.
So it all came down to that valuation number. If your builder was honest to the city, I'm not saying he wasn't honest to you, but if he was honest to the city and truly gave a good cost, we got a reasonable amount of money. If they lowballed it, then they used the standard rate, and he paid less in permitting fees. Now that same builder, under the new system where they said we could do square footage, and instead of using the living square footage, or what's known as under air conditioning, as they did in the previous calculation, they're now using everything, total square footage of the house. So the guy that said his house was worth $650,000 and had 5,700 square feet, instead of paying $6,900, he's paying $8,100.
Wow. So that's a good thing.
That, for us, it's a good thing.
Okay.
It does away with the builders being able to play with the valuations.
Okay. All right.
And the guy that was honest and said his house was worth $735,000, but he was only building 4,300 square feet, instead of paying $8,000, he's paying $7,600.
Wow.
So he got a break for.
Okay, so it sounds as though I have got some crow to eat. I have to say I was wrong, because it was my impression that it was going to hurt our city, and you seem to be saying that that's not true. That I was wrong, and I'm okay with saying I'm wrong. By the way, I like being wrong.
I don't think you were wrong, because everybody that was talking about it was saying the same thing. This is going to kill small cities.
Okay, but it's not.
Well, and this, originally I said they changed the rules, but they really didn't.
Okay.
And that's the reason I'm saying that is because Holland's bill says that you can't charge an occupancy fee. That's what's wrong with non-constitutional or unconstitutional.
Okay.
And they said you couldn't do it based on valuation of the home. But then they turn around and say, well, you can do it on square footage. So you're still charging a building permit fee.
Right.
It's just calculated a different way.
Okay.
So it is.
So then how am I right? I mean, it doesn't sound like I'm right at all.
Well, let me finish on this. It's like a lot of laws. They've made a lot of noise, but it really didn't change anything, because they flipped how they calculated it. Now, what the city's doing is based on a recommendation by the Texas Municipal League.
Okay.
This is a new law. Whether there'll be court cases saying you can't do it that way, we don't know yet.
All right.
But the Municipal League said that they could do it per square footage, so it's equal across the board. Nothing, no variations like with the valuation process. It's, you've got it on paper how many square footage you're going to build. That's what you get charged.
All right. Well,
but now I'll get back to your question.
Okay.
When you I said that I don't.
You're going to try to make the host look good? Is that what you're going to try to do?
No.
I'm okay with that, by the way.
I may be able to talk in circles, but I can't talk in that many circles. Making an Aggie look good. Come on.
Well, that's a very hard thing to do.
The issue is what came out on the news is what you reported, and that was all the hype.
Okay.
But then when it came out with what they were actually allowing the cities to do, it didn't make a difference. So you based your opinion on what everybody was saying. And when the big difference is that they changed from basing it on the living area to the total size of the house. If they had
including the garage, and
everything,
and porches and things like that.
Yes.
Okay.
If they had stayed with the living area, it would have cost us a lot of money, because
I see. Okay.
a lot of houses you have. Well, here, I'll give you an example.
Now before you go there, because I don't want you to get too far in the sticks. We
Oh, come on! I like sticks.
I know you do, because you're the numbers guy. But the thing that we always laugh about when we were on council together is that I was typically wrong about things when you were involved, not because I was wrong necessarily, but because you were a stickler for the little details, and it always drove me crazy. So if I said the sky is blue, you would sometimes come back and say, well, the sky is not actually blue. It's an off blue, or you would define the blue. But that's what that, and I'm joking with you. Obviously, we had a lot of fun.
Well, you were wrong.
but the thing is, and that's what made you so valuable on the council. What one of the things that I think a lot of citizens are going to miss about the council when we were on was that I had asked each member of the council to specialize in something. Councilmember Balcom specialized in communications. She basically transformed our city's communication. Sim Woodham, I asked him to focus on the ordinances. Let's review all of them. Let's figure out which ones make sense, which ones don't. We got rid of a lot, and when we did add ordinances, by the way, we were adding restrictions to government, not the people. We released the people from laws of government. With you, Scott, you really focused in on finances, and I want to go back to something that. When you first brought the master fee schedule to me, I think that we had already, it was Wayne Orchard and I, we found the new city inspector, that instead of going, is that, you weren't on, Counselor, when we got the new inspector, correct? That was before you
made the decision in April.
In April, and we approved it in April?
March or April is when...
was it the question is
Northeast Texas came in and signed the final contract?
Yeah, so we did it right before you came on, and that was a big thing, because we changed the cost of the city. We realized that, I mean, we were spending so much money on the city inspector because we were using a large firm, and we basically found this very small kind of a two guys basically that were retired inspectors that basically did their own, kind of had their own boutique kind of business, and we because of that one move, we saved and brought in terrific amounts of revenue that we had been missing. But that, we thought, was a boon. It wasn't until you brought you brought the attention about this whole master fee schedule, about the fees that developers, home builders, and if you want to make an improvement to your house, like add a swimming pool, things like that. You brought that to my attention, and I got to tell you, I'm sure you remember that you brought this to my attention. And I thought, okay, this is all right, good. I didn't realize what a big deal it really was. And you had highlighted the fact that the current structure of how we do fees is very advantageous to developers and home builders, where they could basically build 70 homes and pay one cost, if you will, whereas a homeowner, they have one home and they're paying essentially the same cost for one of the stipulations in the master fee.
Platting fees.
The platting fees.
It was a base fee plus so many dollars per acre, and you could plat 20 homes and pay that base fee plus your acreage cost, or if you had one home sitting on 20 acres, you paid the same thing. So what we switched it to was we did it per lot. So when they came in and wanted to do 200 new lots in Sonoma Verde, the bill was shocking. I mean, we're talking thousands, tens of thousands more than what they were expecting. And I remember Lisa telling me, she goes, I thought I was going to, have somebody freak out in the office when I handed them that bill, and they just went, okay, because they were used to it.
Right, because other cities were doing it. We were one of the only cities that was doing it the way we were doing it. We were very developer, home builder friendly, if you will. To the disadvantage, and what's important is that this is revenue for the city. This is one of the reasons why the city is able to keep our tax rate low, because we're passing the cost to home builders and developers, people who are not citizens yet. And that's an important distinction. So basically, by changing this master fee schedule, we found an entirely new source of revenue that we had not realized before, and it really transformed the budget in a lot of ways. So
let me
go ahead.
In here. More importantly, or I think more importantly, prior to our change of that master fee schedule, we were footing the bill for both the builder and the city to make sure that everything met code. So what I mean by that is if you came in and wanted to build a house, if you needed advice from the planner, from a planner, our city planner did it for you.
Well, that's right, and for free. We paid for it. We paid the city planner
everything, all the work the city planner did, and he helped both sides. The lawyer helped both sides. The engineer helped both sides. All of our consultants were handling everything, and the city was footing the bill. And we said no.
Well, let's correct that. You actually said no, and said to the city to all of us on city council, "Hey, folks, why are we doing that?" Exactly.
And I say we because I believe that passed unanimously.
It did. It did.
The thing that ended up happening there was we said, okay, you need to find out what it's going to take to build your house. We'll pay for that first half hour for you to talk. Well, we said we'd pay for an hour. You could split it between the engineer and the city planner or the lawyer, whatever you needed to use, but we'd pay for that to answer your questions about what it would take to work with the city. After that, if you needed more advice, you went out and hired your city planner or a planner or a lawyer or an engineer. We weren't going to foot the bill anymore. Or you could use ours, but whatever they billed us, you paid for.
And didn't they have to pay something up front, like a
if they chose to use ours?
Yeah.
Then yes, they had to put a retainer down, and they estimated what the cost was going to be to do all this. They put the retainer down. If they didn't use it all, the builder got the money back. If they used more, they didn't get any permits until they put more money in the kitty, just like any other retainer works. So that actually, I think, did as much for our net income as just about anything, because between that and changing the platting fees, that really took the burden off the city and put more money in the city's pocket at the same time. So that's where that worked out. Now, you jumped subjects on me.
I did because I wanted to give some history. I wanted people to understand kind of how we got here. Now you were going and moving into this new structure. So just let's continue with the history so that everyone understands how we got where we are. Okay. The state legislature, our state rep Rod Holland had proposed. excuse me, Rod Holland, Justin Holland, and they're not related, right? Rod and Justin, I don't think are related.
I thought they were, but.
Oh, were they? Well, okay. Maybe they are. I don't know. But bottom line, Justin Holland, our state representative, proposed this change in the state legislature. It passed. And Governor Abbott signed it into law, I think it was last week or the week.
It went into effect the 21st of May.
21st of May. So it was immediate. It went into effect immediately. And when that occurred, the city council then had to take action, and at that next city council meeting, in the last week's city council meeting, they approved. They approved. I'm getting notes that it's Justin Holland, so thank you for those watching. That they approved a new fee schedule. The city council came together, approved a new fee schedule. One of the things that I was concerned about was, did the new fee schedule, price per square foot, was it high enough? And I think it was, they approved it to the per square foot cost is 17 cents.
$1.17.
Thank you, $1.17. And I think it was you who had said it should have been $1.25, which I basically parroted on my show. So let's talk real apples to apples. What is the true impact, and what are you seeing as far as this $1.17 is the right number, and are we winning? Are we making or losing money?
Okay, I said $1.25 because I was using the living area square footage. Now, the reason that's important, I'm looking at a list of houses that have started since January 1, and on average, there's about 1,000 square foot difference between the living and the total. You take that times.
Wow, that's significant.
117, and that's $1,700 per house difference right there. So by the fact that they decided to charge on the total square footage, that made up what we thought was going to be the substantial loss, or what I thought, and that's the reason I thought it ought to be 125. You asked me how we're doing.
Yep.
There is a difference of $327 less from January 1 to April 30th. One second. There was one house built in May that would have been under the old scale. So through May 20th, all of the homes, the two various formulations, we would have lost $327.
Okay, so it's negligible. It's really
right.
not
it's not a major thing.
Yeah,
the way they turned out to be able to do it.
And it could actually end up being, we could end up getting more, especially for smaller houses, less expensive houses that are larger than the more expensive, based upon price per square foot.
It doesn't matter. See, that's the thing. It doesn't matter what the house costs.
Right, now it doesn't. But I'm just saying, comparatively, when the compared to the old way we used to do it.
Yeah, you're right, but again, the difference there is the square footage. Which square footage you're using?
Right.
If they had used the total square footage times 113 number that they used to calculate it, it wouldn't have been that much difference.
Okay.
But you're looking at me, where'd I come up with the 113? That is the national standard per square foot building, that when there's a question about valuation,
okay,
that's where, and this is from Lisa's, so if I'm wrong, I apologize, but that's what Mr. Ellis uses when he calculates during the evaluation, when the permit evaluation of what the valuation should be.
Mr. Ellis being
David
the
Ellis,
city
the
inspector
city inspector.
that we were talking about, the
Right.
new one that we brought in. Okay, and Lisa is the city secretary. So the two of them essentially put their heads together, it sounds like, and came up with this solution for the city council. Is that
Yeah,
pretty right?
I mean, looking at the numbers that I have, she said it's my understanding, she said in the meeting that the average house is $400,000.
Right.
And looking at this, that is almost exactly true.
Okay.
And of course, all of these are, I shouldn't say all of them, most of them are in Sonoma Verde, so they're in the same size category and price range. So they went in and they worked the numbers. I know I had an hour-long conversation with her about the work they had done trying to come up with a number that would work. And my thought, when I told you the 125, not only did I get that because I was using the interior instead of the exterior square footage, I always think that it's easier to set your price high and come down than it is to sit there and say, well, we're not making enough money, we got to go up.
Sure.
Nobody ever likes to hear that.
Right.
So I thought the 125 was better. And to back up a little bit, one of the other things that we did with our fee schedule when we were doing the valuations, we changed it so that the bigger the house you were building, you actually were paying a higher percentage of fee than you were the lower guy. So we basically went and tried to do what we could to help the small homeowner by reducing their fees, and the guy who's building in Mira Vista with his 12,000 square foot home. I hate to say this, if you can build that home, you can pay the extra $1,000 or $2 in permitting fees that we put onto it.
Mm-hmm.
That changes now. I mean, everybody's paying the same thing per square foot. The guy that's building the big house, he's going to pay more.
Right, because he's got more square feet.
Right. So it's not necessarily worse for the little guy.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been worse if with the higher price, because they would have ended up paying more. So I got to take my hat off to Lisa and Dave, or Mr. Ellis. I think they worked this out using the numbers and did a good job of coming up with something that is going to stop what we were scared of. Because all of the hype out of Austin was, this is going to
hurt small
cities.
Absolutely.
And the good news is, I don't think the city council is going to have a reason to raise your taxes. At least it's not going to be this.
Right, not because of this.
No.
But there is something else.
Well, there's a lot of other things that they can do, but if they start saying, well, it's because we're not getting permit revenue because of this change, that's bogus. Now, when we started this, we were talking about how much our building permit income was, and I looked back at my notes, and we budgeted $492,000, which our total budget was 1.2, so that's actually a little over a third of the budget.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah,
about 40%. And as of April, we had collected 36% of the budget, which is only $176,000. So we're behind because they're not building as many homes right now.
I see.
And there's, I think, several reasons for that. The demand isn't there as much as it was the last couple of years. Weather has been bad. They haven't been able to start as many homes. I know that one builder in Sonoma Verde permitted 4 homes the last day of May. So they are building homes, and at a heavier rate than what they were. But so I think with the summer and with them being able to actually do the work, provided you said don't complain about the rain.
Right,
well,
right.
That's hurting them. But more importantly to me was the number I gave you as far as the permit income was through April 30th. Well, April is 58% of the year, just a little bit past midpoint. But we had collected 69% of our total budgeted revenue. So
okay.
We're ahead by 10%. Now, that's good, and I went through the budget, and there isn't any one thing that really stands out except for franchising fees, which I think part of that comes from the fact that we're doing a better job of collecting fees from the trash.
Okay.
Because Waste Connection wasn't charging the franchise fees to everybody that they were supposed to.
Which is something that on Tuesday with Adrienne Balcom was here. I'm sure I don't know if you saw that show or not, but she was highlighting that fact and how important that was.
And the franchise fees, of course, also include AT&T and everybody else. So the more people that are out here, the more we're going to get for that. And sales tax was up.
Okay.
So, and the thing that I didn't know, sales tax number had always baffled me because it was $100 and some thousand the first year I was on council. And I'm like, the Shell station isn't selling that much. There's nobody here that's getting that. But what I didn't know then, and it was Wayne Orchard that got the report, and we looked through it. If you order something from Amazon, we get the taxes. If you order, or if you have, well, I've got Verizon and I'm paying taxes to the city. Now, I don't know if AT&T is, but I know we are. So it's kind of funny if you order something from Home Depot and they deliver it to your house, the city gets the tax. If you go into the store, Rockwall
gets the tax. Right, yeah.
So everybody started ordering online.
Yeah. Well, and that's the trend. My wife and I, we're Amazon shoppers.
That's the thing. That's what everybody says is, if I shut my daughter's internet off, Amazon will go out of business.
Yeah.
So that's helping us, and our sales tax collection is up.
And that's one of the reasons why on the last city survey you asked these questions about how you shop and you.
Sure. I mean, everybody has forever has said we need a grocery store.
Right.
And grocery stores used to be the central point of a small city. That's where, almost all of them, you went to a small town, they'd have a bench set up front where the old guys could sit around, drink coffee, and discuss everything agriculture related.
Right.
It just isn't happening.
Right.
People...
Especially with the Tom Thumb moving in
the young
Heath.
Kids, and even some of us old fogies are getting to the point to where, hey, it doesn't cost me that X amount of dollars to ship it to me.
Mm-hmm.
I pay exactly the same price if I drive to town, and I don't need it today. I'll just have it delivered to me.
And oftentimes it comes the next day.
Yeah.
We've got an Amazon fulfillment center right there in Dallas. So
yeah, it's going to get more and more because Walmart will do same day delivery of food. Kroger does same day delivery. These guys are all going that way for a reason.
Yeah.
They're not pushing people to do that. People are demanding it. And that was something that one of the politicians from Heath told me, because I was asking him about the Tom Thumb, and he goes, everybody wanted it when we first started talking to him. He said about 78% were in favor of it when we broke ground. He said that we'd lost 20% of approval. He said because nobody wanted it because they didn't think they needed it.
Wow, seriously?
Yeah.
Well,
so,
but they are still building it.
Yeah, they're building it.
Yeah.
But
the
thing,
demand is not as
well. In that time period, and we're talking 4 or 5 years from the time they started talking on that project until they actually broke ground.
right.
There's been a lot of change on online shopping in 5 years.
Boy, there has. That's no question.
So these people who have started doing that go, I don't need that store there. And that's the thing. Now, they're going to get a lot of business from McLean and Chisholm, but I don't think, I honestly think that you would have to be around 15,000 people before anybody would build a store here.
Oh, yeah. You know, and another thing that I was just pinged, the retailers in Texas will soon be able to deliver beer and wine to your doorstep thanks to a bill signed by the governor. So this is, I mean, the delivery service of goods is really, it's moving exponentially fast. And so when we look at it, so Scott, let's talk a little bit about the whole economic development focus that has been kind of talked about as the solution to keeping our taxes low. The solution that keeps coming up is building. We need businesses in our city. And based upon what you're talking about now, it's almost, it would seem that would not be a very good solution, especially if you do build stores and then they go out of business. Now you got blight. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, you know what my thought is. I tried to figure out if there was a way to require any commercial builder that put up a building to put a deposit, so that the city would have money to tear the building down when they left it vacant.
Yep.
And it went bad, and there wasn't.
Still isn't.
The thing that a lot of people have said is we need the office buildings. It maybe not retail, but we're going to need office buildings for professional services, CPAs, dentists, etc. Well, your dentist, yeah, probably.
Uh-huh.
Teladoc has, which is one of the many video doctor services that you can do.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that, so okay.
You can actually sign on, have a video conference with a doctor.
Okay.
And they're not going to diagnose cancer, but if they look at you and all of your symptoms indicate that you've got a common cold, they tell you to go take aspirin and go to bed. But same, allergies, minor things. And United Healthcare has a contract with Teladoc, and they're pushing it towards all of their providers and their insurers because it saves them money. A Teladoc doesn't have to pay, again, they don't have to pay for the brick and mortar, so it costs less.
Yeah, so what? How does that deal with? Yeah, how does that come into the economic development of McLean and Chisholm?
You're going to need less doctors.
Okay.
Because they will, you've got a doctor who may only have a business that keeps him busy half the day some days. Well, he'll sign up at Teladoc and do video conferencing to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So you may be talking to somebody in New York. You don't know where the doctor's going to be. But it gets a higher utilization of the doctors, and it removes the brick and mortar cost. So CPA. Technical difficulties. difficulty?
Yep, we just had a technical glitch. Sorry about that.
CPAs. I haven't gone to my CPA's office in 3 years. We go online and go through all the paperwork, do all the chat. Everything's done. So a lot of the businesses that you used to have to go see people are going to go video. So I just don't think that they can count on having a lot of small businesses of what were there 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Now, I know the country stores opened up here, and from what I can tell, they're doing a good business. The interesting thing is I think most of their business is with their food, not so much with their store items, their retail items. I don't think, other than some real niche type products, that you're going to have retail stores, because they can't compete in price. They can't pay to build the building or lease it and charge competitive prices for what anybody can get driving 10 miles to go into town, into Rockwall, to Walmart or any of the other stores that they've got.
Yeah, so, and you know, Rockwall has kind of a medical center, a really good one, Presbyterian. More than one, and so what else is what else other kinds of business? I mean, when we did the first survey with citizens, overwhelmingly citizens said that they like the idea of kind of a mom and pop shop. We have a little winery. A couple who lives in Rockwall County is starting a little winery, and it's kind of these kind of niche type businesses that the citizens want to see. What I have not been privy to what is going on in the economic development meetings. Do you know what they're okay?
No, it's very interesting. Nothing's really coming out in public. The only thing that I had heard was that they're looking at a centralized
business district. Okay.
Trying to kind of get a hometown, town square type feeling. I'm not saying that's going to be the design, but it's the way I understand it, they're trying to come up with something that allows you to park in one location and walk to everything, which the way the city's laid out, that's probably the only way you're going to be able to do it. And that's fine. I mean, that's Firewheel is laid out that way.
Yeah. So, all right. One last thing I want to talk about when it comes to taxes and budget is really the fire department, because McLennan Chisholm Fire Rescue right now there is a grant, a safer grant that is basically made it possible for the city to create the department and to establish and get it set up and moving. Now, my proposal on how the department should have been set up, it was different than what was approved. But my question is this: the Safer Grant, it basically starts the funding starts digressing, moving back in portions over a certain number of years, and I think that starts next year. No, yeah. When does it start?
First 2 years are the same level of funding.
Are we still in the first year?
Right now, yes.
Okay, so we have one more year.
Actually, yeah. Depends on how Lisa filed the paperwork, but I believe she went back to October of 19 and filed to get the stuff, because we were actually up and running at that point. We had all of the people hired. Officially, January 26th was supposed to be the start date of the funding and the grant.
Okay. When?
January 26th,
okay.
2019.
Okay.
But they allow you had a 90-day window to go from 0 manpower to the full 6 full-time equivalent positions. We did that before the end of October, so she could go back and say, all right, yeah, our start date was supposed to be in January, but we were up and running in October, so we're going to start the funding then. And that's what she told us. I'm assuming that is what they did.
And
that they went back, and FEMA agreed to it. You know, you're dealing with the federal government; they can change their mind anytime they want to, pretty much.
Absolutely. So January 2019. So we've got another year of full funding, and then after that, so my biggest concern has been that those in the unincorporated area contribute nothing to their own fire safety, and that the citizens of McLennan Chisholm provide essentially, overwhelmingly, when I was mayor, it was 87%. Now with the SAFER grant and all in, I mean, I think we're probably at 95%, that which includes the $67,500 that the county is giving to the city for basically subsidizing what we do in the unincorporated area of the fire district. So what when you were on council, was anything did you guys talk at all about how that transition is going to take place, and where that money is going to come from as the SAFER grant moves back? Because it's great to know that we have another year. So this should be the year that the city council starts making plans and starts taking action, don't you think?
Okay, I'll clear up the timeline. We are in the first year where it is basically 2/3 on the feds, 1/3 on us. That's a rough number. That's not exactly right. Next year, and I'm going to assume that we started the funding in October, so it's going to run with the fiscal year.
Okay.
So first year ends October 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Second year ends October 2020.
Right.
Those 2 years the feds pay, or FEMA pays 2/3.
Got it.
The last year it flips. The city pays 2/3, and the
federal government pays a third, and then after that it's
done.
100% on the city.
Yeah, but, and this is something that nobody really wanted to pay attention to. At the end of that third year, unlike some grants where they say, okay, we started you have to fund it and keep it going, the city can say, we found out we really don't need this. We don't want to pay 6 people. And they can cut salaries, they can cut staff, they could go back to an all-volunteer department and not have to pay anything back to the government. This is a clear cut when you end the money, and it's not actually for 3 years.
Right.
If they spend the money faster,
mm-hmm.
the funding runs out. It's an X number of dollars.
I see.
But and I know you smiled and you're going, there's no way they can ever
there's no way they're going to cut back. No way. I mean,
and the reason for that is what?
The reason for that is, I mean, I was the stupid enough mayor that I actually held the McLennan Chisholm Volunteer Fire Department to held accountable, and required an audit, which they refused to do, and so that's why we started the whole department, and it cost me the election because people were misinformed about it, and they will continue to be misinformed, Scott. I think the bottom line is what they come out is, do you care if your house catches on fire and burns down? They're going to create, just like they did in this last election and the election before, they're going to create a calamitous idea that if you stop funding the fire department, if you stop having 24/7 fire service, and if you get rid of, or if you do what Steinhagen wanted to do, which is get rid of the paid guys, the full-time paid guys, and start using professional firefighters who have real experience, who are all certified, they've already got their health care, and just use them, because most fire departments, most firefighters, they work 1 day on, 2 days off. Most of them have extra jobs, and there's a lot of firefighters who jump at the chance to sit around all day at a fire station, which is the number of fire calls are not that much, and man the station. So yeah, that would be the ideal. But I think that there's not a snowball's chance in hell. And again, how many times when I was mayor, did I say, man, I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope that I'm wrong. And but unfortunately, too many times I was not wrong. I was right, and it kind of that was the problem.
So what you're saying is that you don't think our city council has the cojones to do what is appropriate rather than what's politically expedient?
Everything to this the city council and mayor is political. Everything.
Surely you just.
Oh, everything. It doesn't matter. If you're the veterans brick campaign to public safety, everything is a political football, and this is certainly going to be one of them. And I can guarantee that that they will not get rid of the fire department. That's my prediction. What's yours? So you think I'm wrong?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Because I agree, it's not politically expedient, and that's the difference between the people that were on the council for the last 2 years and the ones who were there before and the ones who are there now. We did what was right, and we took the heat for it.
You bet.
And we're all gone, and that's
fine.
right.
And the city's better off.
Yeah, I mean,
because of it. Because we're willing to.
Everybody was screaming, "Oh, we want the volunteer fire department," blah 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 blah. And all of a sudden, the guys that they were saying we were going to ruin,
right,
have full-time jobs, medical, retirement, and we were horrible people for getting rid of the volunteer fire department.
Right.
Now, I said this when we started talking about the SAFER grant, and I'll say it now because it doesn't matter to me now. It's an experiment paid by the federal government. That's the way I looked at it.
Right.
We could have the service for 3 years, and if the numbers grew, if the justification grew to continue it, fine, we continue it. If we don't, then we say, no, you cut it back. It's just, remember, we have the CEO of the city running it as a business. And when your revenue goes down,
you got to make cuts.
You either...
That's what a business would do.
You either go to a bank and take out a loan, or you make cuts.
Yeah.
And if you can't stand to make the cuts, you shouldn't be in the position of CEO, and you shouldn't be on the board of directors.
No question.
Which is what the council is.
Yep.
But I agree with you. They will not cut, because most of them, or several of them, have lived off the taxpayer trough most of their life, and they know all you got to do is, hey, go back to the government and get more money, because all you got to do is raise the taxes.
That's exactly right. So, yeah.
The other thing that passed this session that is going to make it interesting for the council, they passed the property tax relief, and in it says you can raise your maintenance and operation portion of your budget 3.5% before there is a recall, and it is an automatic recall. You don't have to do what you and Wayne and all of us did 3 years ago.
Sign a petition.
Go out and sign petitions and get it. It's automatic. first off, that's going to cost. Well, we've always been told that a line item on the ballot is $9,000.
Right.
So to raise that $9,000, they're going to have to break the 3.5% increase.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking for is a little gamesmanship out of them.
Okay.
It'll work for them for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
We set aside $78,000 for defeasance of bonds. Now, through April, it hasn't been done.
When you say that, explain what defeasance of bonds means, because that's a very technical term.
Okay, it's where we prepay the bonds, and
saving taxpayers the interest that they have to pay.
Some of it.
Yeah. Well, you're paying it early, so there is a benefit of interest.
Yeah, we're paying it early, but because these are high price bonds, they're 4%. We can't do investments that will earn 4%.
Right.
So you have to put extra cash in to make up the difference.
Right.
But that $78,000 rough estimate, it was going to save us about $50,000 in interest. And it does away with the debt. As soon as that is actually defeased, the money's put in escrow. The city doesn't own that money anymore.
No, they don't. It has to go back.
So they haven't done that yet.
They haven't done what?
They have not actually done the escrow portion on paper as of April.
Okay.
Now, when we get the May's financials, which will be 2 more weeks, it may be on there, because we instructed her to do it.
Her being Lisa.
Mm-hmm. At the last
the city administrator meeting. Yes.
But whether she was given different instructions after that
by the CEO,
yes, we don't know. Whether it was don't rush on that. But if they don't pay it, they can offset next year's tax, the INS portion,
right,
with that $78,000. It has to be paid for debt, but it can be carried over to the next year.
Right.
So that would allow them to reduce that portion of the 15 cents. And then they will increase the maintenance and operation portion, but they will be out there saying, we didn't raise your taxes. Which, that'll work for this year. Next year, they've got to raise that extra money for INS, so they're going to have to raise the taxes again.
Okay.
So it buys them a little bit of time, but in 2 years, that 15 cents won't be there unless they cut expenditures.
And this is why I think that if the council had a scintilla of intellect and a scintilla of cojones, if you will, they would begin the process of basically telling those who are in the unincorporated area of the fire district, look, we will, if they're going to continue accepting the $67,500 from the county, then they're obligated to fight fires in the unincorporated area. I don't think that, I don't see a problem with that necessarily. The issue is that I think that the city has got to put its foot down and say, okay, we will fight a verified fire. So if you call and say, my house is on fire, the McLennan-Chisholm Volunteer Fire Department, McLennan-Chisholm Fire Rescue Department is there. If you say, my neighbor, I see smoke coming from my neighbor's house, well, Sheriff's Department's going to have to go out there and verify. If you want, but in the city of McLennan-Chisholm, those of us who actually pay taxes for that, smoke means, hey, send the fire department out. Let's check it out. False alarms, those types of things. The only time I think that the McLennan-Chisholm Fire Rescue Department should respond to fire emergencies in the unincorporated area is when it's a verified fire, house or field fire, what have you. Otherwise, if those in the unincorporated area want an enhanced level of service that we as citizens of McLennan Chisholm expect and receive, then they need to pay into what I would consider or call a membership, so that they can actually contribute to their own fire safety and also receive an enhanced level of service. So that's my idea. What do you think of that? And what is your idea? Do you have any ideas about how to raise those funds?
I like your idea. It's not going to happen because of politics.
Well, of course, I get that, but that's what I'm saying.
It doesn't.
That's why I said if they had a scintilla of.
Okay,
yeah.
But they don't want to because their mentors, Judge Sweet, Dennis Bailey, and the other members.
That's County Judge
Sweet,
David Sweet, and County Commissioner Dennis Bailey. Yes.
They don't want the city to say, you're going to charge these people.
That's right.
So what they do, and it's exactly what they did to us, all of a sudden, the 20 calls a month that the sheriff's office was handling to dispatch our fire was worth $10,000.
Right.
And I got news for you. It's going to get worse.
Yes.
Because in April, I was invited to a meeting that was no information whatsoever. They wouldn't tell me up front.
Good. I'm glad because I was going to bring this up. I'm glad you're talking about this.
The last time I went to something like that, I got ambushed. So I said, until you tell me what it is, I'm not showing up. Well, it turned out it was Sheriff Evanson, Bailey, and Sweet.
Yep.
And they met with Lisa,
city administrator. Okay.
And they were, and this is from Lisa, this is what she told me. They are talking about us needing a dedicated deputy to handle the calls in McLennan Chisholm.
Sure.
And that we're going to have to start paying for that deputy.
Sure.
Now, she didn't give any numbers, but you got to figure it's going to be $50,000-$60,000.
Right.
And her comment was, she told them, well, I really hope you can hold off a year because of this whole property tax, or not property tax, building permit brouhaha that we don't know what revenue we're going to have.
Right.
But this isn't by accident.
No, of course not.
And these are his words. So if he wants to get mad because I called him a cross-dresser, that's fine. But that's what he referred to himself as when he worked in Heath and in Fate. Because both of those departments, the people serve as firemen, EMTs, and police officers. They literally wore different uniforms. So they were cross-dressers in their jobs.
Right.
So that's
you're talking about Chief Simmons.
Yes.
Here, and he wants to be
Simmons,
police chief and fire chief. That's what you think.
Well, he wants and I'm putting words in his mouth, but I'm like you. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm 99.9% sure I'm right.
Right.
He wants to start a Department of Public Safety.
For the city.
Right.
Right. Yep.
So that he can justify why over 50% of the calls responded to by his department are EMS calls. They had 2 fire calls. One was a brush fire and the other one was an unauthorized burning.
Okay. So,
and neither one of them were in the city, if I remember right.
Okay.
This was April's reports.
All right.
All of their calls are EMS.
Which, Don't get me started there.
You're right. Don't get started there. But what will happen is this will switch to, okay, we don't need Rockwall EMS anymore. We'll staff our own ambulances. We'll hire 2 more people or more, and we'll run our own ambulance service.
Yeah, I'll just say this. Okay, even as liberal as the current council is, I cannot fathom that they would ever go for that, because you have Rockwall County EMS that is serving everyone, and just I've just got to clarify something so that people understand why I'm shaking my head when you talk about, you know, the why our Rockwall County, or excuse me, the McLennan Chisholm Fire Rescue Department keeps going on these EMS calls, is because when I was mayor, one of the things, and this is one of the key issues that was with the McLennan Chisholm Volunteer Fire Department, is that we created a new contract. I was the mayor of McLennan Chisholm. I was on the Emergency Services Board. I was one of those who signed the new contract, where we negotiated to ensure that the response time, I think, is 8 minutes for an emergency, and where the McLennan Chisholm Volunteer Fire Department could not guarantee any more than any sooner than 9.5 minutes. So it kind of I was exhausted with trying to understand why the MCVFD at the time, and now why the McLennan Chisholm Fire Rescue thinks that they need to go to EMS calls when the response time for the Rockwall County EMS is guaranteed at 8 minutes or less, and if they cannot make it and do not make it in that time, they are penalized. We did penalize them early on when they did this. So that's where my frustration grows, yours as well, because we were together when all of this occurred.
But you asked why.
I asked why about what?
You asked why they go on these EMS calls.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Well, to make themselves useful.
Because it's what the big departments do.
Well,
how many times do you see on 30?
That's true.
Where there's been an accident,
right,
and there's a fire truck blocking 2 lanes.
And what's important to understand is when Rockwall County, the McLennan Chisholm Fire Rescue Department comes to an EMS call, they cannot perform paramedic duties. They are restricted. They can do basic first aid. It doesn't matter that they have the training. They are not allowed to do it. It is a contractual and a legal. There's a lot of nonsense, and I think it's all nonsense. I think they should be able to do more especially if they're trained, and some of them are. But the bottom line is they can't do anything more than basic first aid, and so they go on these calls.
The chief. And I'll give him credit, because if they're going to do it, like he said, they should be able to. Absolutely,
they should.
But
they can't.
He has great expectations of being able to put certain medicines, certain equipment on the trucks.
Yeah.
And because they do that, and then they have to follow the same guidelines as Rockwall EMS.
Yeah, but the problem. Okay, but remember, all right, now we're getting into a different topic, and we probably need to have a show just for this, right, because they can't do it. I mean, it's not something that they go, okay, well, we can get you guys to move into this. It is, as a member of the Emergency Services Corporation Board, we actually went through these issues and we talked about, okay, can we get these guys to be able to do that? And the answer continues to be no. I don't know what the chief really expects, how he expects to be able to do that.
Well, the guidelines say that as long as they are under control of the Rockwall County Medical Services doctor.
Rockwall County EMS, again,
well,
yes.
It's the doctor that sets the protocols for that.
Right, and the problem with that, okay, and the problem with that is that person has to be on call.
He's on call already.
No, he's not. He's on call. Again, this is so the doctor that we're talking about is someone who is on call, but is not someone who will sit on, who is going to take calls to approve certain things. Again, the on-call nature of that doctor is different from what is being described by Chief Simmons, because that's not the purpose of that on-call doctor.
Simmons never said anything. I want to make this clear. Simmons never said anything about an on-call doctor.
All right.
But
I mean, the only reason I'm saying this is because I sat through meetings after long meetings where they went through all of this. We've, having to find a doctor, having to get all that put in place. The bottom line is they can't perform these services. What they're doing is they're putting wear and tear on the fire trucks and the equipment, which cost money, using gas, that kind of thing. I realize that they use those equipment to go to lunch because they need it when they're on duty. But I just think that there's the city council needs to come up with some kind of announcement. Here's how we plan to sustain the cost of the Rockwall County McLennan. I keep saying Rockwall County, the McLennan Chisholm Fire Rescue Department. Don't you agree?
Well, of course, but I'm also in favor of reducing staff if necessary.
No question. I would agree.
That's the problem with
your solution is as likely as mine.
Correct, but it still comes down to, if you set up that dais and you're there for political reasons, then you're never going to do what is right. You're going to do what will keep you there.
Boy, that is so true.
Is just like state, federal, they're there. They want to be there as a career.
That's absolutely right. I agree.
That's the reason these guys turn around and start raising money for the next campaign as quickly as they do, because they're not there to do what's right. They're there as a career to be a politician. Some of them have great intentions, but the system is set up to where if they're going to be there more than 2 years as a representative, they got to start running again just pretty much as soon as they get there, and they can't do the hard things.
No, I agree. I agree with that completely. And Scott, I appreciate you coming on the show. And there's a lot more that we can talk about. I do want to find some time to talk about the police and the sheriff's department, because that's a hot button issue as well. And what they're trying to do to our city is just wrong. So maybe next time we talk, we can talk about that. There's a lot of other issues as well, so keep us up to date. I hope you'll come back on the show. So thanks for being with me.
Absolutely not.
Yes, you will. You don't have a choice. It's just like when
I will be happy to come back when we get more on the budget.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I will be back and we'll discuss what they're talking about, what it looks like. And we will let the citizens know, probably before the council does, how big the tax rate's going to be.
That's exactly what we need to do, and that's why this program is here, is to make sure that there's a lot of transparency going on about what's going on in our city. And I hope that you're staying tuned. Please be sure to subscribe to Bunker Bob's show, and that way you will get alerted whenever we have a new show coming up, and so that you can know to watch and or watch it later. So again, thanks to my good friend and former Mayor Pro Tem Scott Turnbull, who I call the Doctor of Finance for the city. So until we see you next time, I hope you have a great weekend, and we will see you next Monday. Have a great one.